for adults? Is it?
It works.
I don't know. I mean,
and
it
it
stunts your growth and
Is it?
stuff, so that might be, good for
It
you.
takes like 30 minutes
Have
to
you seen
kick in, so
Yeah,
I got a snack pack.
you got a keg.
and it doesn't last all day too. It kind of.
Oh, a
You know,
snack pack.
I have to give him a booster, like when he gets home in the afternoon, something that doesn't last as long, just to get through his homework.
So Jim, what did the patients say when you talk too fast? What do they tell you said? Yeah, the reaction.
Candy in them and stuff.
Is what?
And stuff.
Why? Why are you kidding me?
Because it was so funny what he did.
I don't know.
When you talk so fast, what are the patients?
Slow down. Is that what you said? I'm running. Slow down, you fast.
Slow down, I can't understand you.
Well, when I was in grad school, my professor had told me this. He noticed that. He goes, go get tested. He goes, you can actually qualify for a learning disability and have certain type of examinations. We can give you exams that aren't oral examinations because you trip over words or whatever. He goes, sit down, write it out. It's perfect. And it's not even a nerve thing. It's just,
Right.
I just how I am. So I went and got tested through the student association. It was free. The psychology students or majors. And so the test they had back then, this was 1999. 98, 99, and the test, at least back then, was, there's no blood test for ADHD. There's a criteria, there's 18 criteria. They said in the state of Michigan, you have to meet 15 of the criteria to be considered ADHD. Some other states are different.
Right.
I met 12. He goes, and he didn't, the psychology professor, whatever, said basically, you totally had ADHD growing up. You've learned to cope. You're 30 years old, I was 29 years old. He goes, you learned to cope and mask that and function like that. So, but as a kid, oh my gosh, you would have totally had it. I'm like, I did. But back then, I was in the principal's office every day. I skipped a grade, not because I was so smart, because I got in trouble. They thought I was so smart, I wasn't challenged, I wasn't paying attention. So I had a decent grade. It was first grade. Or kindergarten, it was half day, and I was so always getting in trouble, and they said, well, let's put him in first grade for the afternoon. And that kind of calmed me down a little bit, because I had to learn. So the next year, they put me in first grade, and I already learned it, so they put me second. So I kind of went an extra half a year, missed that. It was a full year. So, and from then on, I just learned to cope. There's some subjects in school. I got some crappy grades some years. If it's something I had to pay attention to, forget about it.
It really
Math,
has worked for
math.
Brendan, though, because, it's funny. We go in and we have our conferences, and Keith and I usually go together, and we sit down, and, they start telling us about Brendan and how well he's doing and how well behaved he is and how he's well liked by his, classmates and all this. And we're like, okay, pull the right file, because we know we're not talking about my kid here. He's like totally different at home when that medication wears off. He's just.
Well, didn't you have good luck with Andrew? Wasn't Andrew that was having a hard time? You took medication, he was much better, or was that?
So no, Andrew had horrible grades. Like we lived in Brighton and we moved to home. And I was gonna have him
I put my foot in the shot.
His grades were so bad, and I thought, no one will know he's repeating the grade, whatever. And the doctor was like, and actually his teacher said the same thing. He doesn't need to repeat it. He's smart. And they put him on Adderall. He went from
back then?
He went on Adderall. Okay. He went from C's and D's to A's and B's in literally like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And all it was for him was.
I think Brendan's might be called Ativan or something. It sounds very similar to that.
He did not have the hyper part of it though. He was just ADD.
Brendan is
because Andrew was definitely not hyper. He just had the and he was so disorganized. You could walk down the hallway and you could tell which locker was his because it was the one that the papers were coming out of.
Oh my
and
gosh,
he'd
I
sit
hate
there
those
and
lockers.
do his homework. But then somewhere between home and school, it would
It's
get
because they're
lost.
so dirty and then they get into my
so
locker.
disorganized.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you recording still?
No.